Merry Christmas, everybody. As I'm recording, I'm even seeing pops up every now and then of our Viber group chat, and I gotta say, that's been a really wonderful thing we've got going, and I'm glad it's happening. I'm actually really glad we're also doing Jolabokaflod. Yes, Jolabokaflod. I believe that's how you're supposed to pronounce it, but it's Icelandic. Jolabokaflod is a Icelandic tradition that was started back in World War II. The only thing that was not being rationed in Iceland in World War II was paper. So they were able to afford to get books and give them to each other on Christmas Eve and cozy up in the middle of the night, the very long, dark, cold nights. And in fact, this tradition of cozying up inside the warmth during the darkness is a lot of the tradition behind Jolabokaflod. Jolabokaflod really is older than anything else because it's a celebration of storytelling. Icelandic tradition, and more specifically, Nordic tradition, Nordic being anybody from the Scandinavian area, Norwegian area. This was a very harsh place to grow up. This is a harsh place to live and define a culture. And as a result, the culture became actually a very harsh group of people with pagan gods that celebrated war and dying in battle. It's the only way to achieve the highest form of heaven. All that kind of wild shenanigans that come from just growing up in a rough neighborhood. It was not just the people that made it rough, it was of course the environment. The environment made rough people, and therefore rough people made rougher people. It's a wonderful cycle that all just kind of boils back down to nature itself, including the festival of Yule, or Christmas as we would eventually call it. Yule was started because it was dark, scary, and things went bump in the night. What this ended up being is a celebration of storytelling, a culture very rich of people who had to be locked up inside around a fire and had nothing to entertain but their words. So storytelling and poetry became extraordinarily valued in Scandinavian culture. They even have a god about poetry. They have a whole myth about an ale that was cursed, and if you drank it, it would make you speak bad poetry. They really loved their storytelling. And that brings us right back to Jolabokaflod and all the stories that we're sharing right now. Of course, what we really should be doing is giving each other a book, and we all sit down in our separate corners and not talk to each other and read, though we would have a chuckle here or there, maybe tell each other about what we're reading, but it was a time for reading, getting lost in your book. And then when dinner time came around, when it was time for the Christmas Eve feast, everyone shared about their stories. I'm working on The Hobbit. I'm rereading all of the Lord of the Rings series as well to help me write a little bit better. And I figure if I'm going to share a little excerpt from this, like Mom and Dad shared theirs, I will have to share the part about the dragon. There he lay, a vast, red golden dragon, fast asleep. A thrumming came from his jaws and nostrils, and wisps of smoke, but his fires were low in slumber. Beneath him, under all his limbs and his huge coiled tail, and about him on all sides, stretching away across the unseen floors, lay countless piles of precious things, gold wrought and unwrought, gems and jewels, and silver red stained in the ruddy light. Smog lay with wings folded like an immeasurable bat turned partly on one side, so that the hobbit could see his underparts and his long pale belly crusted with gems and fragments of gold from his long lying on his costly bed. Behind him, where the walls were nearest, could dimly be seen coats of mail, helms and axes, swords and spears hanging, and there in rows stood great jars and vessels filled with a wealth that could not be guessed. To say that Bilbo's breath was taken away is no description at all. There are no words left to express his staggerment, since men changed the language that they learned of elves in the days when all the world was wonderful. Bilbo had heard tell and sing of dragon hordes before, but the splendor, the lust, the glory of such treasure had never yet come home to him. His heart was filled and pierced with enchantment and with the desire of dwarves, and he gazed motionless, almost forgetting the frightful guardian at the gold beyond price and count. That's just a taste of what Tolkien does, and really, I find Tolkien is a particularly beautiful writer to read out loud because Tolkien celebrated language very much in the same way as the old Nordics, the ones who bring us Jolabokaflod. They believed that words needed to be spoken to really hear their meaning. Though being written down was pure magic too, because in the Nordic myths, runes were writing and runes were just pure magic, and only the best of the best could understand runes. And I don't actually think there's anything, I mean, there was probably some to runes, but I've never really gone into it. It's not like a proper written language. Anyways, that all being said, they thought that language, words had to be spoken out loud for you to truly appreciate it, and that's what Tolkien did too. He studied the structure of words and the way they sounded and the meaning that was given to them and how it would enhance their beauty. And he constructed all his prose and paragraphs to be read aloud, really. So I find Tolkien an excellent author. If you're ever going to read anything out loud, he's a good one to start with. Of course, there's tons out there. Now, another thing about Jolabokaflod is, well, we're doing this online and it's a pandemic, and let's just face the music. So this is not Jolabokaflod. We're not giving each other books. We're not going into the corners. We're not reading for hours on hours, or at least that's not being seen over here because I'm in this room, this house, far away from you. I miss you. I hope you're reading at home, kids. Take this time off to read. There's a reason we still read. There's a reason why I'm also going to share with you another story, and it's going to be on a totally separate link, and it will hopefully just reinforce a bit more of what you've heard from me today. It's an Icelandic tale about Christmas time, and it brings back the original meaning of Christmas. Hundreds of years before Jesus Christ was born, Christmas was a different holiday. It was a holiday of gathering together and surviving together, surviving the harsh reality of winter. And we would cheer each other up with bright lights and stories. And of course, the stories were not always puppies and flowers. Some of the stories were deeply inspired by the elements of the reality of life, and some were creepy warnings. Warnings that honestly got out of hand. So moms, dads of the youngest persuasions, maybe you'll want to watch the video first before you unleash it on the childrens of the younger persuasion. It is a little bit of a creepy story, but I wouldn't be sending it off if I thought it was beyond what anyone could handle. But yeah, it is a little creepy too. Merry Christmas! One more thing. 3D printer on the side of me. Love it. Just making presents with it. See, the thing is that it broke a few weeks back. It was about a month back. I fixed it. I think it started acting up again though. So I got a new part. I'm gonna replace all of this to be a nice long excuse of your Christmas presents are gonna be late. Sorry. Love you. Bye.